Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar today, Quick Marketing Wins to Make Your Firm a Magnet for Top Accounting Talent. It's a long title. I think I've got the hardest bit of the session out the way saying that. Hello to my guests, Blake Oliver and Rachel Fisch. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Hey Matt,
How
doing
are
great.
you?
Good, thank you, really good. So we'll get into it. I'm quite interested to know where everyone's dialing in from. If you want to fire that into the chat, I'd be really interested to know. I'm in the South Island of New Zealand. I was just telling Blake and Rachel, it's a funny time of year here where it can be like minus in the morning and goes up to pretty warm in the afternoon. So, but my heater's really noisy, so I'm kind of freezing here in my t-shirt. That's what I go through to do these webinars for you. Where are you, Rachel?
I am just west of Toronto, so we are very deep in fall right now. We have, I think, a frost warning coming up next week, so I hear you with the chilly mornings, but it's going to be a beautiful spring-like weekend. So, but the colors are beautiful, and yeah, excited to be here with you. Thanks, Matt, for inviting me.
Yeah, nice, thank you. And it's all year round for you, Blake, isn't it?
Well, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, so we have 2 seasons, wet and dry. And we are entering our dry season, and it's going to be, I was sitting outside doing calls this morning, and it's paradise, this time of year. So good to be with you.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. Cool. All right. Well, I was just chatting to Blake as we were warming up for the session and just saying that it's a hot topic, right? Recruitment, finding good staff. It's a hot topic, and there's all kinds of theories, the Great Resignation and all this socioeconomic stuff. We're not going to talk about any of that because it doesn't matter, right? You still got to get staff. For whatever the reason, you still got to get staff. And I think that your website and your marketing genuinely are quick wins. That's not just some marketing speak to say, hey, this is easy. But I think that we'll look at some examples. People would intuitively know that crappy website, good website, job seeker, which one are they going to be more attracted to? So I think there's a bunch of stuff like that which we're going to run through, which is really practical. I was wondering, we'll take some notes on this, and maybe we can even create a checklist at the end of this as some easy wins that people can go through. But yeah, I think for whatever the reason, it's hard to get good staff. Don't make it harder for yourself by having a really poor, but maybe not just digital presence, also offline. We'll maybe get to that. So keen to get into all of that stuff right now. And I thought we would just kick off with some just quick introductions. So maybe you go first, Rachel, and tell everyone about yourself.
Sure. My name is Rachel Fisch. I'm the principal at Realty Tax, which is an accounting and tax firm focused on real estate agents, brokers, and the creatives that serve them. So I'm in week 6 of this new firm, so it's still very new, but I've been around the space for a while. I was one of the first cloud accountants in Canada, having my own practice originally back in 2011. So I've been around the space for a while, but it's nice to kind of be back in the driver's seat maybe a little bit. So, but having lots of fun. And BizInc, I just got the proofs for my new website yesterday, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job on that. So I'm really excited to work through the rest of the process.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Envelopes in the post, and 6 weeks in, you've got your elevator pitch dialed. That's pretty good.
It keeps changing a little bit, like a little tweaks. I think we're getting it. We're getting it close.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Rachel. And how about you, Blake?
So I'm the co-host of the Cloud Accounting Podcast. That's my claim to fame, the #1 accounting podcast in the world by downloads. I previously owned my own small online accounting firm, similar to Rachel. I think that's how we got to know each other, was being in that space. I also sold my firm like Rachel did and went through that experience. I worked for a large accounting firm, and by large, I mean 1,000 staff, 100 partners, washed out of there within a year, and then went to work for 2 different tech companies. I became a product marketer at Flowcast and then a director of marketing at Giraffe, which makes FP&A software. And then I left Giraffe to go start my own thing. Now I have an app of my own called Earmark CPE, where accountants can get CPE or CPD, credit, as they like to call it up in Canada, or listening to podcasts. So podcasts like the Cloud Accounting Podcast, but also lots of other shows. And we've got over 300 courses on there now. We've issued 10,000 CPE certificates. Awesome. And there's like more than 3,000 people signed up for the app. So that's been going for about a year now, and just going to keep making that happen. Maybe we can even get this webinar up on the app for CPE.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. Let's chat afterwards. Well, thanks for that, Blake. And so yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Biz Inc. We help accountants and bookkeepers with websites and marketing. So that's the angle we're coming at it from. I look at a lot of accountant and bookkeeper websites, which is someone's got to do that. And so I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think what we'll try and focus on today is the good. We've got some really awesome examples. We're going to do a bit of a live teardown on a couple of sites. Because I think, genuinely, keep coming back to this quick wins thing. These are things that you could do today or this week to make your website look better, either just generally or specifically around things like your careers page. So I think that'd be a good place to jump in. And I guess what I want to do here is almost like create that scenario of someone, you've posted a job advert as a firm owner, and you're waiting for people to come in. And so what people do, right, this is my belief anyway, and I'm keen to know what you think, Blake and Rachel, is they do a lot of due diligence, right? Like, because they can do it from sitting at their desk, probably in their existing job, if they've got their screen hidden away from the current employers, and they can do some due diligence. So I guess that's what I wanted to kind of look at and go, like, what do you think that due diligence is? And then we'll maybe start to look at some real pages. So maybe start with you, Rachel. Like, if you were looking, what would be the things that you would go and do?
Sure. So first of all, I'm going to start with an answer to a question you haven't asked. And that is that, so I actually recently had to do a job description. Our new tax manager just started on Monday. And I'm super excited that we were able to work that out, but it was really stressful looking at, being kind of back in the seat of needing to recruit, going, I can't go with a job description template that I had, the last time that I hired somebody 10 years ago. What people are looking for, how you need the wording, the messaging, all of that stuff. It really needs to be updated and changed. And so, at the time when I was going through that process. And so first of all, if anybody has seen that job description, and maybe I'll post it, it is not, we'll see a little later, kind of the difference between kind of old and new style job descriptions, but it really is, you can't expect to continue to recruit and have the same pipeline that you used to, if you're not keeping up some of those updates. And I think of Blake in terms of, how often, Blake, you talk about the future of the profession. And, we kind of have these obstacles against us just in terms of getting new CPAs and getting people in the accounting industry. We don't need to be limited, as you mentioned, Matt, by our own, like, by the way we write a job description, by the way we have the website and stuff like that. So you really need to be looking at those other things. You know what? I forget what your question actually was.
It's interesting, actually, because what you're talking to, I put it as one of my questions for the end if we had time, which was, the job description is super powerful, right? Like, and funnily enough, somebody I know launched a company yesterday which does overnight video job descriptions for $1,000, and they'll make it,
wow.
They give them all the facts about the job and they turn it into a video that's super engaging, and you post that instead of, So I think people are thinking about this stuff, and that was going to be one of my questions. Maybe you can answer that, Blake, which would be, if a lot of people here listening will be numbers people, not writers. Would you hire like a professional maybe to do that job description to make sure it's as good as it can be?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that we need to take a step back when we're talking about writing these job descriptions, where we post them, and actually look at it like the same way we should look at a customer marketing funnel, right? The same way that you reach out to prospects is the same way you should be recruiting into your firm. And so if you're doing all this stuff for customers and prospects where you're doing all this outreach and wonderful marketing, like, yes, apply that. Have your marketing people write your job descriptions. I mean, otherwise you're setting yourself up for substandard candidates, right? You don't want the bottom of the barrel, right? You want the cream of the crop. So I agree.
Yeah. And I think that, you work with real estate agents, Rachel. I'm selling my house right now, and I think that kind of copywriting and job description copywriting is some of the worst copywriting you can see.
Yes.
If you want to see.
So a friend of mine who's a freelance writer is actually going into just freelance writing for real estate agents because they're terrible. They're terrible.
It's horrible.
The question is, are agents going to pay for that? So who knows?
Yeah. I think it's one of the, and I'm not picking on real estate agents, but I am, but I think there are two types of writing which people readily fall into cliche with, and that's what I think you're trying to avoid. If you're trying to find someone exceptional and you're writing a load of cliches, then what are you going to get? You're going to get average, because that's what cliche is,
Well, and Matt, you got to watch out for the trigger words and the phrases that indicate something negative to a candidate, like fast-paced environment, or like that. There's certain phrases, and Rachel can probably think of some that will basically turn away candidates because they'll realize, I'm going to be doing everything under the sun, and you're just going to throw a bunch of stuff at me, and there's not going to be any focus, and it's going to be just like my last job. And so we definitely don't want to be, well, first of all, creating jobs like that, but then also don't sell it that way. That would be a mistake. So
I think that's really important. Those phrases. I was actually just overheard some radio the other day. I was in a shop and it was talking, not an accounting job, but it was like a fast-paced, ability to multitask. It's exactly what you said. It's like you're going to be worked to the bone. You're going to be doing everything,
Here's I just Googled these.
Oh, sorry, what?
I just Googled the list of these. Fast-paced environment, excellent interpersonal / communication skills, self-starting or proactive, amazing, fun company culture, competitive salaries. I mean, if the salary is competitive, just make it competitive, right?
And make it transparent, maybe too.
Yeah, maybe even like post it. Consider posting it. That could be something kind of revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think on that? Just quick one. We don't need to go deep into it. Would you post a salary or not?
100%.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not. To me, it goes a little deeper. It has, its roots in pay equity, right? That's the entire desired outcome through all of this, is that it's not posting a salary amount just to put the number out there or to brag, or whatever. But it's how it affects, certain groups of people. And so by setting that range, a reasonable range, I saw the one that was like 50,000 to 120,000, like really. But, setting a reasonable range and being transparent about it, I think will go a long way. If we can kind of get that wave going of people who will make that commitment, then I think it will actually make a huge difference in pay equity.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Actually, on the cloud accounting jobs, you can't post a job unless it has a salary. And I love that. I know that Chad kind of second guessed himself on that, but I thought it was absolutely the right move.
Agree. The trigger word I read was the worst one. I read that list somewhere that you got, Blake, and it said, if you ever read like we're like a family, it's like run a mile. That's like the worst. It's like your family's your family, your work's your work.
Yeah. My in-laws are staying with us. My in-laws are staying with us right now. I do not want a job where it's like family.
All right, cool. I mean, I would second all of that stuff. I've done a lot of hiring, not in the accounting space, but I believe in all of those things, and I think that the way you write the job description is absolutely key. I remember working for a company. It was how I got into the accounting space, and they came to me, and I wasn't their official copyright, and they're like, "You've made it sound like it's a really good place to work here. I think you've made it sound better than it is." But that's a danger.
So is it too late for me to remember your original question, Matt? Can I jump back? It had to do with candidates doing their due diligence. And I think that we're in, so now there's so much information that is available on social media. Absolutely, they're doing their due diligence, and they're doing it on every social media platform that they have access to or that you might be on. So in my case, I would not, if I'm looking at a candidate, I'm checking out their LinkedIn profile, and I'm making sure that, what they have in their profile matches what's on their resume, or, God forbid, use a platform where all you have to do is upload your LinkedIn profile and not also submit a resume. But yes, absolutely. I'm sure that people have checked out my Twitter feed. We've talked about that in interviews and stuff like that. So I think that all of these things get tied together. So just as much as they are doing their research on you, you of course can do your research on them, but then also be really mindful, and this goes to a broader marketing strategy, be really mindful about what it is they're going to see. And so making sure that that's kind of all wrapped in there too. So,
So that was
which
my kind of,
we'll get to with the websites.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's my sort of specific question, is that first impression, how important do you think that is?
It's critical. It's absolutely critical, because that is the information. I mean, before, when you would look for a local job, you drive past the place, or if it was a retail, you would go in and look around the shop and, check it out. We're not working in, usually local or places that you can just check out on a whim. So you need to go with the digital presence. And so, yeah, anything that's available, it's probably getting checked out by candidates for sure. Or at least it should be for good candidates who do their homework and do their due diligence on you for sure.
Yeah, and like I've found that when hiring is, well, my favorite candidates are ones who I feel like I'm being interviewed, right? Like I like that feeling where I come out and think, man, they like grilled me because they care, they really were trying to work out if it's going to be a good fit. So I love that. And, I was going to talk about that, we can come back to it later, but I find that all the good candidates I speak to in my business have signed up for the newsletter. They probably comment on something in that. They've downloaded a lead magnet. They've checked out a few blogs. They've obviously checked out our socials. So I think all of those things are happening. Would you agree with that, Blake?
Yeah, my best hires are people who I didn't even have jobs for, and they reached out and they wanted to work for me. So that was all due to my social media presence, doing stuff like this with different vendors, going out and speaking. And now with the advent of video on social media, you can do that from anywhere. Yeah, I mean, it literally happened to me. My two key hires at Cloud Sourced Accounting, which was my firm, found my firm, not the other way around, and they opted in basically. And then at Earmark too, two of my key hires again found me separately and said, "I love what you're doing with Earmark. I love hearing about it. I want to work for you. I want to work with you." And so that's key. It is key to have an online presence these days. If you don't, it's like not having that storefront that we used to all have.
Well, and that to me, Blake, is kind of the ultimate magnet, right? Where you're not even hiring and you're getting that kind of attention. Like if you've got a job description out there, you're inviting that kind of activity. So there already is some kind of draw, but I always think that's really cool when you get those people just reaching out out of nowhere, like, how can we work together? What can we do?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And those are people who typically don't apply to typical job listings, right?
Yeah.
They're actively on the hunt for the next thing all the time. And so if you're only relying on the job listing on your website, you're just going to get the passive people. And I'm not saying that's bad, right? Like there's a role for everyone in every firm, but when you're a small firm in particular, you want the people who are really passionate.
But they're also job hunting in a very traditional way, right? Yeah. If they're waiting for job descriptions, or if they've got kind of their alerts on their job seekers and stuff like that, then they're looking for a role in a really traditional way, which to me is like, is that going to be the best kind of fit for these very non-traditional organizations and firms? So I don't know.
Yeah. Probably not.
I agree, but I think even with a traditional firm, like the way that, which might be some of the people listening, right? Like, and I want to be, I think we should move to websites next, because I think that's the easiest win of all. Social takes time to build up, and, you know, not everyone can do a pod. Well, they can, but they won't. What I think,
you know, Matt, you to transition into the websites is like, if you have a careers page, at least have a video of yourself on the careers page welcoming all the prospective candidates to apply and showing what the firm is like. You could have a here's what working at our firm is like video, and you just made it on your iPhone and you walk around and you, like, you know, interview people working at the firm, and hopefully it's like appealing, you know, like people should want to work there.
And if it's not,
jump in and show a really good one. Sorry, you go, Rachel.
I just said, and if it's not appealing, then you might have bigger problems.
And that's a different webinar, which we can do next time, which is, you know, how to make your firm a more appealing place to work. Yeah.
We can't help with that mess necessarily, but like I can just a marketing guy. But what I talk about often with more marketing for clients and is, I call it like the tab test. You know, you've got your browser open, and say someone is shopping around, whatever it's for, right? And say this could be a candidate, or it could be someone looking for a bookkeeper, looking for an accountant. You know, this is what I do anyway. I've got a few tabs open, and I'm like, okay, I got 5 tabs. I want 2 or 3 max. Like, who can I reject? So that first impression is just like, their website looks crap. That's getting closed. That's getting closed. I made my life easier. So I think there's that like real basic kind of first impression thing that happens before you even get to the job description, you know. And it really pains me when I talk to somebody and I'm thinking, man, these have got like this is a really cool person. They've got, you know, their ideas are really good. And then you look at the website, like, it doesn't really reflect us. And you're like, wow, no, it really, really doesn't. You know, I talked to someone yesterday, they got their last blog was 2017. You know, just take it off. Like, it's better not to have that there at all if you've got that. But yeah, I think if I just jump into, I got a page here. I thought this was a really good careers page. So it's a firm called LiveCA in Canada. What I thought was good about this, it doesn't necessarily have a video on it, which, oh yeah, it does. Apologies. It does have a video on it. So it's exactly what you were saying, Blake. What I thought was awesome about this was you can almost start to feel what it's like to work for this firm, right? There's real people in it, you know, it's not some dry description. And the bit that I thought was really awesome, we obviously got the jobs there, was testimonials from the team, right? Like, that's awesome, because, you know, I'd always advocate for client testimonials and case studies, but you've got 3 case studies with good photo testimonials with really good photos there. I just think that's an awesome tactic.
Are you going to share your screen, Matt?
Am I not sharing?
No, not yet.
Sorry.
I was checking my settings. I was wondering if that was me.
No one told me. That's all good.
But I think this goes, no, you're good now. But I think, Blake, as you were mentioning, just as you consider a customer journey, you should be considering a candidate journey. And so testimonials, of course, they're part of your marketing. Of course, you want to show happy clients. Why would you not want to show happy team members? So I think that's a lot more true than people think it is, that, you know, marketing doesn't belong in HR and all of that. It's just like, no, it's just, they all need to reflect who the firm is and the values of the firm. And so here, absolutely. I think LiveCA has done a phenomenal job here. Yeah.
And I'd go even farther than that, Rachel. I'd say that, like, it's more important to invest in marketing your firm to candidates than to clients these days, because most firms have more work than they can handle.
Yes.
So
they don't need more clients.
Yeah, they don't need more clients. What they need is more help. And, like, just look at how good these headlines are. Tremendous impact on my quality of life and work-life balance. A professional athlete and CPA. I like the one above. If you could scroll back, Matt, the top one, I didn't have to choose
Yeah, it's
between
awesome,
work
isn't
and family, you
Yeah.
know, like,
Awesome.
and Stephanie's talking there about, I can be a student, mother, world traveler. I don't have to choose between that, between work and my professional well-being.
How many
That's,
times do you hear CPAs say that, eh?
yeah, it's not exactly something you'd see on most career pages, right? They just want the people who are going to work the longest hours. And maybe that's what you want in your firm, but if you want that, then be upfront about it. Say like, we are a firm that is going to pay you a crap load of money for working a lot of hours, and we enjoy that. You'll get those people if you, but don't lie
We
about
are
it.
all about the grind. Yes.
Yeah,
We
no,
have
and so,
church
you know what?
groups
There's
for
nothing wrong
everything.
with. I know people who love to grind, and that's great. Like grind. If that's what you want to do, and then retire when you're like 50, yeah, go for it.
That's the Amazon model, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it? You can work harder, smarter, faster, and like none of them are optional. You get paid not
Yeah,
if you work in a factory.
And what's great about that is like Amazon and Tesla are great examples where when you go in there, everyone knows who applies, and SpaceX is like this too, right? That you are gonna work crazy hours, but they know it going in. You're weeding out all the people that don't want to do that, right? So, be upfront about it.
Yeah, totally. And I think, from a marketer's perspective, why I think this has got so many good elements, whether you're trying to recruit or not. The first one is it works on the emotional level, work and family, it's like the hierarchy of needs, right? Like you're going straight into like primal emotions, which is the most powerful stuff when it comes to marketing. And the photos are evocative as well, aren't they? Really, really powerful. So I think that's something that, assuming you can get staff to give you good testimonials, that's a quick win, right? Like how long does it take to do that? I mean, they can give you the photos off their iPhone probably, I wouldn't get them to write it, just ask them, write and record it. That's the best way to get someone to speak in real, to avoid cliche, just get someone to speak to you and record that done. So that's something that I think every firm could do really, really quickly.
The only thing that's missing here, in my opinion, is a video from Chad, the founder himself, at the top, welcoming everyone, or maybe like not too far down, like have or whoever is in charge of the hiring process, the person you're going to be working with. I also love if you scroll up, Matt. The thing I do love is they have the steps of the hiring process laid out right there, so you know what to expect.
Expectations. Yep.
Yeah. And then at the very top, they got the perks and the benefits, so that like they're highlighting the best part, of working at like the money and the flexible work and the remote work and the health days and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to add a couple. I'm going to add a couple more things here as well. Is that knowing Chad and Josh. And knowing their own pictures and their own travels and and this is why, Blake, I think, a video from either one of them or both of them would be great as well, is because this isn't just the owners are sitting in an office somewhere and everybody else is gallivanting. It's like, this is how they also work. Like every single person in the organization, from the founders all the way across the board, work in a very nomadic, or very, maybe not all nomadic, but in a very balanced way. And so demonstrating that is really good. The other thing that I was going to say is how much this is, again, knowing, Live CA in the way that we do, I also know how much this is seeped into their entire culture. So this isn't just a great website. This isn't just, somebody took some highlights off their iPhone. This is throughout the entire organization. And so people, especially candidates, I think they would be able to tell pretty quickly that the difference between, it's just that authenticity thing, right? The difference between, okay, so they said all this and they have these great pictures to make it look good, but real life at the firm, might look a little different. But again, knowing the firm the way that we do, I can confidently say that this is an accurate representation of what working there looks like. And so I think that's so important. Like, don't try to claim to be something you're not also. So yes, have a great website. Yes, talk about all the great things, the great ways you can work with these people, but be honest and authentic about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think authenticity is something people are starving for. Authenticity, that's what they really want in this world. And so, you know, if you give it to them, you will have an advantage.
Yeah, can't say it any plainer than that. I often say the truth is the most powerful thing in marketing, but very underused. Just tell the truth. It's a very kind of profound thing when you think about it, is everyone's hyping everything up. And if you just say, this is what it is. And I think, you know, a lot of the candidates we're talking about here, you know, maybe certainly younger than me, you know, like that they're of a generation which is much savvier than, you know, past generations to online and those marketing tactics. So they come off real awkward, you know, and people don't accept that stuff. So I think that, you know, whether you're a marketer or not, people can smell that authenticity, right? Like as soon as they come to it. And I think that's the, you know, you see a lot of people throw like a foosball table in their office or put it on, hey, you know, we've got a coffee machine. That's just fluff, isn't it? You know, this is, you can see there's like something genuine. You know them more than I do, but there's something deeper behind that, which is maybe not the topic of this webinar, but they've presented what they have really well. And maybe just a few other things. I think that's awesome as well. Steps of the hiring process. Like this is a marketing tip as well. People always like to be in a process and be guided, right? Like a good example of that's Uber. You know, the little cars driving around on the screen don't make the cab get there any faster, right? It just makes you feel happier about it. You know, it's like, it's just, you know what's happening, right?
Yeah, to me, it's clear expectations. Yeah, you know exactly what is going to happen or how that's going to look. I think that, well, as Melissa at High Rock would always say, clear is kind. Being shrouded in mystery, it just creates tension and stress. And so I love that, the level of clarity that they've got here with what the hiring process actually looks like. Yeah. And
let's remember that most of the time when you apply for a job, you send in your resume through some form that's really difficult to use, and you end up having to like type everything up again, and it's pain, and then you never hear anything, like no feedback. Like, and let's compare that to a customer marketing funnel. Imagine if you submitted an inquiry form on a website as a prospective customer and nobody ever got back to you. How would you feel about that firm? You're never going to apply again, right? You're done. So let's also remember that you want to keep these candidates in your hiring pipeline, the ones that meet your criteria, right? So you want to be responsive to them and create a good experience. Even if you don't give them the job, maybe they can get a future job with you, right?
Yeah. So just to dig into that a little bit deeper, Blake. So you talked about like pipeline, and, you know, when we hire, we have automations built in our HubSpot that do, you know, create tickets, that send emails, that set out the process. Would you advocate firms having something similar where they've got like a literally funnel to do that with?
And I know, you know, a lot of firms don't have the budget or time to set up marketing automation software. So it could be as simple as just have a process where, you know, whoever manages your inbox for hiring, like, has a form template they send back to everyone that says, thank you for your application. We're going to take a look at it. We really appreciate it. And then, you know, if you don't accept somebody, send them an email and say, you know, thank you for your application. You know, you're not a fit at this time, but we'd love to keep you in mind for future roles. And so we'll add you to our list, and then have a list, a distribution list for future hires, you know, future jobs you post. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be complicated, but most of the time what happens is the application comes in, it gets discarded, and then you forget about that person forever. And you're missing a huge opportunity if you do that.
Mm.
One of my best hires at my last firm was somebody that I knew for several years, actually, before I ended up hiring her. And it was, and I don't even know how we originally, I think we probably had mutual friends, but then I kind of heard that she was in accounting. Oh, and now she's working towards her CPA. Oh, and now she's working at BDO. Oh, and now she's not happy. Oh, and now, and so like, it was, like, if that was a nurture campaign, like that was a very patient nurture campaign, but it wasn't the right time for me, or it wasn't the right time for her. But when it was the right time, absolutely, we made something work out, and she was a fantastic hire. So I think that, Blake, what you're saying about keeping those contacts, or keeping those moving in the pipeline, or keeping in touch, and then it's with people that you actually know. You don't know that they're not going to be happy with their job or whatever until you reach out. I don't know how many times I would announce that I was doing a new role, or changing direction or whatever. And by the time you announce something like that, like, it better be a set deal, right? It's not like, because then everybody knows, including your employer, and you're like, oh, I was just feeling things out. You kind of need to know that that's the direction you're going in. But how many times, and Blake, this has probably happened to you, it was like, oh, I wish I'd known that you were looking. I'm like, but I wasn't really looking. We struck up a conversation. We were doing some cool things. We, thought we'd give it a try to work together. Like, it's not in the job post. I applied, we did an interview, kind of. I don't even remember the last time that happened with a change that I've made.
I've actually never gotten a job applying to a job in my entire career, and I'm 39.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little unusual in that regard, but I think it's more and more common with social networks.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and I know there's a lot of people I talk to, I meet them occasionally, they're like, oh yeah, I don't do social. Even younger people. And I'm always shocked, because it's not just for fun. It's not entertainment. Like, you need to be on LinkedIn posting about what you're doing in your career at least every few weeks, or you don't exist online. So it's just, it kind of shocks me. And every role I've gotten, it's because I had a social presence and people reached out and said, hey, are you interested in this role? And I think that's the other thing maybe we could talk about, is like, how proactive are firms about reaching out to candidates and going out and seeking them, online? Because usually the people who are the best candidates are not looking, like Rachel said. They're not actively looking.
No, I totally agree. And Matt, we're gonna override your agenda here for a second, if you don't mind.
We're good at hijacking webinars, Matt. You didn't know what you were getting into when you had me and Rachel on.
Yeah, he knew what he was getting into with me. But one of the things that I was trying to figure out, if there is a way to squeeze in, actually, based on your notes, was, creating brand ambassadors, and which can then, become those magnets to start drawing people in. So sometimes the draw is the brand, right? Deloitte, yeah, that's a huge draw as a brand. Once I have Deloitte on my resume, like, that's not set for life, but it's an impressive thing. And so there are other brands that would be similar. And then in some cases it may be, the leadership and the leadership change. And I know that, Dex just announced their new CEO was Sabby Gill. Well, I worked with him at the UK, at Sage when he was in the UK. And so I love Sabby. We got along great. So, that's, who knows if that would ever be an opportunity. But these are the kinds of things where creating those I would say touch points, but they're not touch points. It's like creating these draws in various levels of your organization. But yeah, Blake, I'd love for you to explore a little bit more about what firms can do to be more proactive about getting these, rock star candidates, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is like, you might go hire a recruiter. I think people have negative experiences with recruiters. And I think that's just often because of the compensation structure. So a lot of firms, they'll do their own recruiting. Like, so that's why you need to have a LinkedIn presence, for instance, because you need to be on there connecting with accountants who might someday fill a role in your firm, and, interact with them, comment on their posts, like start a conversation. And it can be as simple as, go on every morning with your coffee, or when you take your lunch break, or whatever time of day is like a regular time for you, and just do 10 minutes of scrolling through the feed and comment on something. I read a stat that 80 or 90% of people on social media never comment, never post. They are lurkers. And something like 10% of people comment, and only 1% actually create most of the content on social media.
Wow.
So if you start posting or even just commenting, you're already giving yourself a big advantage over people who are just lurking and watching.
Yeah.
And that's also why you shouldn't feel bad when you post and you don't get a bunch of likes, because first of all, that doesn't happen right away. But second, like, a lot of people are seeing it, even if they're not liking it.
I've seen that even in the last month. We got a client in Canada actually, and they said, "Oh, I saw you on LinkedIn, and like, are we connected?" Like, no, we're not connected. But you said a comment on someone I'm connected to's post, and I like the comment. They didn't connect with me on social. They just booked a demo, So it's like, I thought it was very true. It's like there's the kind of like, it's like the iceberg thing, isn't it? That under the seas, all that stuff. You'll have both had it when you go to conferences, right? And people come up to you and it's like, hey, Matt, and like, your brain's like, who is this? Who is this? Like, we're connected on LinkedIn. Like, I'm connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So is now the right time to talk about, if you're going to do that, don't have a picture that's 30 years old, because nobody's ever going to recognize you in person.
Yeah. Don't use your first headshot.
Going back to authenticity. Sorry, you go, Blake.
Going back to authenticity, right? Like, use a real picture of yourself. And then also, like, when you're commenting, interacting with people, don't be a version of yourself that's not real. Be who you are with your clients, with your employees. Don't feel like you have to button up and put on the tie on social media, because nobody wants that. I have not met anybody, and the people who want that are awful people, and you don't want to associate with them, because they're just the worst part of our profession, if you ask me. And I hope that they all get old and die.
There are some snappy dressers. I'm just saying.
Well, the metaphorical, like, I'm uptight tie, right? I guess I should say that. Okay, if you're wearing the cool tie that stands out, that's different. But if you're, the worst thing that ever happened to accounting was when we got too full of ourselves and we thought we're so important. And we need to make everything complex and have lots of acronyms and use lots of technical language when we talk to clients, and create accounting standards that are impossible for the average person to comprehend, much less the average accountant. Get rid of that.
Yeah. So you have another website for us, Matt?
Sorry, what's that?
I just thought I'd throw this website up because I was talking to someone in Australia about this same topic, and he said, "This is the site, Pete. This is the site you need to show." So this firm is like massive growth, right? Like massive growth. I'm sure some of those Thai people will be like, "This is nonsense. This wouldn't work." It works, right? Like they've got, I'll show you. They're a serious firm. They got some big clients. They got like 4 offices in Melbourne. They're a high growth firm. I think they said they got 7,000 clients. So they're not messing around, right? Like, but this is their website. So whether you like it or not, nobody could accuse them of being traditional.
That is amazing. It's like Monty Python. It's like a Monty Python fever dream.
Yeah.
What kind of clients do they serve?
/ Peter Gabriel video. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at so I work with a lot of franchise, and go to the blog, some more mad images, and but actually, we get into the content. I'm not going to say it's boring, but it's regular accounting content, right? Like, SMSF's like a personal investment vehicle in Australia. Director ID number, that's just a compliance thing. So it's not like you've got to be, I don't know, taking acid and coming to work to have a website like this. It's like you can still do the normal stuff, but it's just presenting it in a very different way, right?
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing this with me. This is like the most unusual accounting website I've ever seen.
And I've seen some unusual ones in different ways, but not good ways.
I think it works because, if they work with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs think different, and this is different. This is the most different accounting website I've ever seen.
Well, I
And
think one of the things that people make the mistake of marketing is like mistaking that like what the point of certain parts of it are, right? And if the point of it is to get your attention and move you to the next piece, that gets your attention, right? Like if you were doing my tab test, that's one you're going to keep open, right? Even if you just go, what the hell is this? Like, I need to look more. But, you know, you can see it's a serious business underneath that. And like they've got their careers page with more of that kind of stuff on there. I don't think it's quite as good as Live CA in terms of like, I think there's staff testimonials are really good. You can see it goes through into their offices. And maybe as we're talking about social, you can see they've got that consistency of it coming through into their, into their Facebook, which I guess is like a topic that we could maybe briefly touch on, is the power of brand. And I think that is something that's in one way intangible, yet everyone could say that's a good brand versus a bad brand, right? So what do you think about that, Rachel, as someone who's kind of building a brand at the moment?
Yeah, it's tough because a brand is what your customers tell you you are, not what you tell other people you are, right? It's kind of the essence of your organization, but from the customer's perspective, in my opinion. And so how do you build that? How do you, for me, it's with intention. For me, it is making sure that, the values that I hold and how I'm building my firm, that those values are in literally everything that I do. Right now, our logo is red and blue. And so, you want to make sure that you're using those kinds of colors, so that because people are very visual and very color based. So when people see a blend of those colors, like to me, what sticks out are especially the blue and the pink, right? And with that mint green in between. So I like that they took that. So I like that they took that not only just from a social media perspective, but in their locations, in their offices. It looks like you could shoot a Peter Gabriel video in their office. And so that, again, that consistency and that authenticity throughout. It's a challenge in its necessity for intention. You can't build a good brand by accident.
Yeah, and I think it's not a quick win. So maybe out of topic of this webinar, brands are definitely not a quick win. There are some quick wins within that. And maybe we've got a really good brand checklist, actually. So I'll share that to everybody afterwards. But yeah, it's definitely not a quick win. That's a kind of like 2-year project, well, forever project, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's the consistency, right? That's what ends up building your brand. And so consistency is something that's built over time. You can't judge consistency in a short term. So
yeah. And I also think that, people tend to think brand, logo, colors, fonts, whereas that is really important. And they will have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on getting this to look like this. Yet all of the stuff we talked about before that, copywriting, social media, posting on LinkedIn, that's your brand, your personal brand. And, to your point earlier, Blake, I see people, maybe not accountants as well, but people in other industries, like at the bottom, right? Like they're just, early 20s, maybe like second job. And they've got unbelievable followings on LinkedIn, and they're talking about the challenges of their job at that time, that kind of thing, and you can just see the engagement they're getting from other companies. They're getting asked to speak at things. So I think that's, that's your personal brand that you can be building at any time. You don't need to spend any money on that, just a time investment.
No. Yeah. When I started out, I was a bookkeeper who was studying for my CPA license, and I was talking about what I was doing with Xero as one of the few Xero partners in the US. I was posting online. That got their attention. They started asking me to do events and webinars with them. I had no business telling other people how to run a firm, but those people who knew how to run firms weren't out there talking about it. So who got the opportunity? It was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to speak up.
I was actually thinking about, there's a firm in New Zealand, I don't actually know, and they were one of the first Xero firms in the world, and their website was quite famous. I'll just search for them now. And they had a website it was very different at the time. It's probably the blue rock of its time, right? Like I haven't looked at the website in a while. So it's still got a nice website, but it was like this cartoon character here was all over it. You know, you guys might have seen, it was kind of famous website, right? Everyone wanted to copy that website, the packages. And I remember talking to quite a few traditional accountants saying, you know, these guys, like, we do way better accounting than them. It's just marketing. And I'm like, but they're kicking your ass, you know, like it doesn't. The people who are buying off them clearly don't care, right? So who's the dumb one, you or them, you know? And it was like, it was just trying to pull them down. I'm like, whether you think it's superficial or not, they're winning, you know? So.
Yeah,
but
success.
I think what that highlights, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rachel. No, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I think what that highlights is who's focusing on whom with feedback like that. Clients don't care if you're the best at what you do. They genuinely don't. They want to be able to connect with you, typically on an emotional or passionate level, you know, being passionate about the same things, in your ability to solve their problems. Do they care if their tax return is the most correct or the fastest or the whatever? Like, no, they just want to work with you. And to me, this website gives you, you know, ideas of these are the kinds of people I want to work with. So anyway.
And I would add that I think clients do care that they're working with a good accountant, but there's sort of like this baseline of ability. And most of us are over that line. And the client doesn't have the ability to distinguish between capability. They're not it would take a colleague to be able to tell whether or not I know what I'm doing when I do a set of books and close a set of, you know, put out a set of financial statements. The client has no clue. So they're relying on the image that you put out there to the world to make that determination. So even if you are the best, if your marketing sucks, your clients have no idea that you are the best. So that's a failure of looking at it from the client's point of view. And I think actually most of the problems in most accounting firms come from not being able to put ourselves in our clients' shoes and see things from their perspective.
Yeah.
And if we could do more of that, then we would be way more successful.
And that's the direct lead into put yourself in a candidate's shoes as well, right? It's the same thing. To do that. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. I'm keen to kind of like maybe wrap up with a few quick wins. What would be maybe your 2 or 3, Rachel, that you would say, you know, let's say on your new site, what would you do if you know, the top 3 things you're going to do, 2 or 3?
On my new website?
Oh yeah, you know.
I'm now thinking I better focus on my careers page a little more. I think this came up in the kind of the pre-show notes. Steph was talking about like always be hiring, like just like we do with clients. We don't say, oh no, we're not taking on clients at this point. You will make room for the right client. And so just as Blake had mentioned, you know, I got my best hires when I wasn't even hiring. So always having the messaging, always being open to the right people, I think will bring them your way. And just be completely authentic. So who your firm is, who you are, make sure that that's reflected in all elements of your social, including your website.
Yep. Thanks, Rachel. And, you know, I was going to mention this earlier. We work with a lot of accounting, bookkeeping websites. The second most viewed page after the home page is the team page. And I don't think that's all clients looking at that. So yeah, that people element is really, really important. And it reminds me actually of something that a guy called David Meerman Scott, who wrote you guys know, there's a book called The New Rules of Marketing PR, which was a real influential social media book about, must have been nearly 20 years ago. And he was saying like having like a journalist or media page on your website is really good because people check it out. If you put it like only for journalists, people check it out. Maybe it's the same with careers, right? People who are looking to choose you as a firm, not, you know, as a customer, you know, they're going to look, oh, what's it like to work at this place? So, you know, it maybe helps with that part in a way that you don't anticipate as well.
Yeah.
What would be your 2 or 3, Blake?
What's 2 or 3 what?
just things that, quick wins that, if you were at a firm again, what would you be doing? Obviously a video, you would do a video on the careers page was one that you strongly highlighted, but maybe what else?
Yeah, honestly, it's video. We started as a podcast. So the Cloud Accounting Podcast has been around for 4 years. And this year, we started doing video, meaning we record our episodes on video like this. We release them on YouTube. And then very critically, we take the best moments of every episode and we make 1-minute clips and we put those out on social media, and they come out in different formats for LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're doing that even, YouTube Shorts, what have you. And our reach has gone up 45% in the last, I want to say 30 days since we started doing that a few months ago. It is the way that people prefer to interact on social media these days, or consume content anyway, is video with captions. That's important too. Everybody's into, watching their, people are watching social media videos on the toilet and they don't have the sound on, so you gotta have those captions.
That stat was over 90% of when your video is watched is with captions, is silent. Yeah.
So you got to have the captions, and if you do that consistently, you don't have to do it every day like we do, but if you do it, say once a week, you make a video, you get the captions in there, and it's about something for your clients, or about something about what it's like to work at your firm. And it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to do that kind of stuff on a consistent basis, but if you can, you are going to increase your connections and your reach on social media, and you put those up on your website, you are going to be very appealing to hopefully the right prospects that you want to hire. Like the people who like how you put yourself out there on video are going to want to work with you. And it's all about finding the right match. We don't want to get 200 people applying to a job and then have to sift through all those resumes to get to a bunch of people that you then meet, and it turns out they're not a good fit. Like that's not a good funnel.
Yeah.
So
don't ever post a developer job. I think I get about 2/3 of the population of India who connects with me or tries to apply for a job that doesn't exist every day. Yeah, cool.
What about you, Matt? What are some of the quick wins that you would recommend?
Quick wins for me, I think, like the first one would be, just a general kind of like, I guess, brand and website overhaul. Like, does your website just look, I mean, like, I could, without going into details, people know what's a good and a bad website these days, right? Like, does this speak to someone? You look at this one we're looking at here, it's engaging, right? Get a good photo, not a stock photo, all those kind of little things like that. I'll share a website checklist of stuff we recommend on that, So I'd do that. I think making the form stupidly easy for people is one we didn't necessarily touch on, but we've been experimenting with Typeform. If anyone's had a look at that app, it's just so easy. It draws you into a process rather than, we use Google a lot. We're a Google kind of shop. The forms are kind of crappy, right? Like we've used those for job applications. So it's not bad per se, but like it can be better, right? So I think that would be one, make the form cool. And that social media presence, so it's like that someone's going to look at your website. Does that correspond with, what you do on LinkedIn? I noticed on one of the things on Live CA, if you actually click on that, don't want to pick on them too much, but they should fix this. You click on some of their socials and I can't remember which one it was, but they don't load, right? So I think that doesn't look good. So just that consistency from website to social as well. I'm going to just check I'm right in this that I'm saying. I think it was last night, but I think like the last post they done, like this, the last post like 2020, right? Yeah. So I'd either be like, just not have it or do something with it. So I think that they'd be my 3 tips. Yeah, the form, consistency, and just get your website looking good. It doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to be like that Blue Rock site that we looked at. Like, you've got to have you gotta be different to do that, but you can still make a real nice looking website without going as far as that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap up there. Thanks very much to you, Rachel and Blake, for coming along. Thanks everyone for attending today. We'll send out the recording, some of those resources that we mentioned, and yeah, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way, Rachel? We'll put this in the follow-up email as well. But
sure. I'm on LinkedIn, of course, and Twitter @FishBooks.
Cool. How about you, Blake?
Yeah. Find me personally